So I'll ask you a very pointed question. Donald Trump won on Make America Great Again. He's running on Make America Great Once Again. And that harkens back to a time when, because America ain't never been great for black folks.
Never.
Let's just call that what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think this America, number one, is ready for a woman to be the leader of the free world, let alone a black woman to take that office?
That is the question, Prez. And the short answer and the honest answer is, I don't know. I just don't know. Here's what I do know. What I do know is that she's going to need a massive turnout of black voters to make this competitive. What I do know is that she needs to siphon off a whole lot of white women to make this happen. She is not going to do remarkably or demonstrably well with white males. And here's my concern. Historically, white women have always voted like white men, like their husbands, like their fathers, etc. White women's votes mirror those of white men. And that's the big question for me. The $100,000 question is, what are white women gonna do? I ask that question routinely on my national radio show, talking to all kinds of people, including white women. I'm always asking white women, are y'all gonna show up? And it was nice to see white women for Harris on that big Zoom call and all the money they raised. That was nice. But at the end of the day, when you walk in that polling booth and you close the curtain, or if you vote early, however you vote, and can't nobody see what you're doing at your kitchen table, do white women show up for Kamala Harris? And for me, the jury again is still out on that question. So can she do it? I don't know. Is America ready for it? I don't know. What I do know is that you can't win it if you ain't in it. And so she's in the race. She's raising money. The enthusiasm levels are up. We shall see. But fundamentally, what we're going to be dissecting the day after was how robust was the black turnout. And Sade sang that beautiful song, never as good as the first time. Somebody else said you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Somebody else said, lightning only strikes once. So it's going to be interesting to see if she mirrors historically what Obama did as the first in 2008. Again, I don't know if the level of enthusiasm reaches that sort of fever pitch as it did for Obama in 2008, because this ain't the first time. It is as a woman, no question about it. But for black people, this is not the first time per se. So I don't know how that all shakes out. But what I'm keeping my eye on is, again, black turnout, which has to be very robust, and whether or not these white women are going to show up. And on that question, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know that we live in an America where, you're speaking about white women. I'm thinking about white men.
Yeah.
Republican, Democrat, Independent. Is a white man who goes to work, pays his taxes, lives in the suburbs, ready to turn on his television and see a black woman as commander-in-chief. That's, and to your point, I don't care what you're registered as.
Yeah.
No one knows what you do when you get into that booth and close that curtain.
That's right.
And it's as simple as that. I love the way the party has been awakened. I love the fact that all of a sudden this actually seems like a dogfight. I love the fact that Kamala's holding no punches. She's going straight for the jugular. But I don't know that it's enough. And I also don't know that it's enough time.
I tell you,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I tell you what does concern me. And I just said to some friends of mine the other night at dinner that I've pushed Kamala Harris much higher up on my prayer list. She's like right near the tippy top now on my prayer list. Because when this debate with her and Donald Trump does happen, I have grave concerns about the way that is seen by America writ large. And in this instance, I want to turn back to your point about whether or not white males are prepared to see a black woman as commander-in-chief. Both she and Donald Trump are going to be in a very, very precarious situation, Prez, when they're side by side on stage. As a white male, particularly with his background of drama and maltreating women, Donald Trump has got to be concerned about how he comes across up against this woman. He didn't have that concern against Joe Biden. You could pummel Joe Biden, and it is what it is. Or Biden could pummel him. Two white men going at it, we're used to that, no big deal. But when you're a white male, and now you're standing next to a woman and a black woman, there are any number of things that he could say or do that would get him in a whole lot of trouble. Remember how he walked around the stage basically stalking Hillary when he debated Hillary? You can't do that to a black woman. And there's certain things that he shouldn't say, certain phraseologies he ought to be concerned about. So Donald Trump's going to be in a precarious situation debating a black woman. But the same is true for Kamala. Now I'm back to your point, Prez. You're debating a white man. You are a black woman debating a white man in America. And I keep telling all my friends who think that because she's a prosecutor, she's going to pummel the felon, put down the crack pipe. Donald Trump has beat up a whole lot of prosecutors in his career.
That's right.
Donald Trump went off on the judge in Manhattan in the courtroom to his face. I didn't say prosecutor, I said judge. Kamala Harris is not going to roll Donald Trump. Sorry, y'all, it's not going to happen. He ain't going to get rolled. And just because she's a prosecutor, which, by the way, she hadn't done in years, doesn't mean that the prosecutor's going to just pummel the felon. I don't see that happening. But both of them are going to be in a very, very difficult frame for how they do this awkward dance with each other. And I would simply suggest this. If I'm Kamala Harris, if I'm Team Harris, if I'm the Harris Walls campaign, I'm spending a lot of time talking to psychologists, people who watch the culture, who study human behavior. I'm talking to them to make sure that my cues are right. We tend to think of debate preparation as you in there debating somebody in your team who's playing your opponent. So there's some white man that Kamala is going to be debating with in preparation to get ready for Donald Trump. I can assure you of that. Donald Trump, if he's smart, will find some black woman in his camp, some black woman somewhere that he can debate to prepare him to deal with debating Kamala Harris. But if that's all they do, somebody's going to be in trouble. Again, if I'm Kamala Harris, I'm spending a lot of time talking to psychologists about the psyche of the American people, the psyche of white men, the psyche of white women, and the things that you want to do and don't want to do in that debate. I'll leave that where it is, but it's going to be an interesting and awkward dance when this tete-a-tete finally happens. And I hope that they're smart enough to do the research to make sure that they're in the right frame, Prez, talking now about the Harris people when they step on that, when she steps on that stage.